unparalleled beauty and natural resources. A nation willing and able to pay the price freedom demands. We gather together to declare the joy of our independence. We gather together to give thanks for the blessings beyond imagination. We gather together to reflect, to rejoice, to reaffirm our commitment to the dreams and the sacrifices of freedom's pioneers. From the north to the south, from the east to the west, from the mountains' highest peaks to the valley's fruited plains, from the highways to the hallowed ground, from every village, town, city, and state, from sea to shining sea, let freedom ring. The songs of freedom have continued to resound over this sweet land of liberty for more than 2 centuries. Once the anthem of the free began to echo, it could never be silenced. America's freedom did not just evolve. It was pursued and claimed by those who put the interest of their family, friends, and neighbors above their own. America has always been a nation of heroes. One such hero was the father of our country, George Washington.
Good morning. It is such a blessing to me to be here today in the house of the Lord, to be amongst my brothers and sisters in Christ in a land called America, one nation under God, where our motto is, "In God we trust." And we ask that God bless America. I'm going to try and give you a 3-dimensional portrait of me today, George Washington. 3-dimensional in the sense that I've got height and depth and width. But 3-dimensional in another sense, and that is the public man, as my neighbors see me in their eyes. And the private man as I'm seen in the eyes of my family, and the spiritual man as I'm seen in the eyes of God. Now, some of you may have seen and heard and read about my public life and my private family life, but rarely have you heard about my spiritual life. So I'm going to focus on that this morning and trust that you might learn the other parts from other sources. I want to start as when I was a little boy. And when I was a little boy, I liked to go to Mount Vernon and sit on the steps looking out at the beautiful Potomac River. And I remembered a song that I learned as a child where it said, "I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got the flood of Jesus' love in my soul." And it was that love that gave me peace through a life of trials and tribulations. And I'm going to tell you some of those things, but it was the peace of the Lord that carried me through so many different times of trouble. When I was yet a lad, when we moved from Mount Vernon to Ferry Farm in Fredericksburg, my dad, who was a very industrious man, he was part owner in Iron Forge, and he ran Ferry Farm, farmed that, and he was a sheriff in the local town and a trustee of the town and a vestryman in his local church. Well, he made me a very special gift that he made at the Iron Forge. Can anybody guess what it was? That's right, a sharp and shiny hatchet. And I was so proud of that hatchet, I went and I chopped a little notch in the fence post, and I went and I chopped my initials in a tree out in the forest, and then I went into Mom's garden And I chopped at a wooden stake that was holding up her pea pod vines, and they fell down. I thought that was real funny. Mom did not. But you know what? I didn't learn my lesson. I then went into Dad's orchard, and I chopped at one little tree, and there was no problem. But then I chopped at another little tree, and the wood was so soft and tender, it went right through the tree, and the tree went flopping over on the ground. Well, I looked this way, and nobody was looking. And I looked this way, and nobody was looking, so I just wandered back in the house, hoping that nobody would ever notice. How many of you, when you do something wrong, hope that nobody will ever notice? There's a few honest people out there. Well, 'twas not to be. My dad came home from the iron forge that evening, and he put his horse away in the barn, and then he came up toward the house, and he went over to the orchard, and he saw his favorite cherry tree lying on the ground. And he came into the house and said, "Who chopped down my cherry tree?" He did not look happy. But there was only one thing I could do. I raised my hand and said, "Father, I cannot tell a lie. It was I did chop it with my hatchet." And he had his hand up in the air, and he brought it down on my shoulder and said, "Son, I am not happy with you chopping down my cherry tree. But I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you, son, for having the courage to tell me the truth. Because we can always replace a broken tree, but you and I can never replace a broken trust." I learned a very important lesson that day. It served me well throughout my life, and I recommend it.